And for anybody out there who's jealous about this, and shoot, everybody's human. Is there a thread of me that might be like, wow, this guy's making $500,000. He's 18 years old. Seriously? Really? But, in theory and in practice, I believe in the whole system. And I agree that they're Americans. They should be able to capitalize on their celebrity or whatever they can do under NIL, because we all need to keep in mind that at least they are all going to class, they're working out, they're busting their tail, going to practice, going to film room, going to meetings. It's a full-time job to be a college athlete these days, versus people don't seem to get mad at a bunch of 14 and 15-year-olds. They can get on TikTok and become instant celebrities for doing really stupid, worthless things. But we've given them worth, so they could make a bunch of money. So it's what you just pointed to. I asked the other night on a call-in show, because people are getting all riled up about different aspects of this, and I asked the question. I said, write in the chat, who ultimately holds the power in this entire process? And I got all sorts of coaches, boosters, NIL, and it took forever. And I said, no. Think about it. Who ultimately holds the power if you're talking about the value of watching college football? Finally, you do, the fan. You do. If you want to empty all the stadiums all season and to prove a point, people are still going to watch on TV. People are still going to make a lot of money, but that's going to decrease the revenue to a certain extent. And it's also more than that, going to just prove a massive point that ultimately the fans hold we have given this much value. It's entertainment. Like you say, the gladiators, that's what we want. That's what we want to see. That's what we're passionate about. So, James, I did want to hit on one thing that I think bothers me, bothers most fans, and it's tied to what you said about your jersey, your touchdown, everything that makes you a valued member and an endearing member to the Florida State football fan base. You were always a Seminole. You didn't start out at Florida State and then figure, when I can get more carries at Wisconsin because they run the fullback all the time and I can make a little bit more money, whatever. And I went up there, and then as a grad transfer, I ended up at North Carolina. You were always a Seminole. And there's like an attachment. Obviously, that's why this makes so much money, because people become attached to their teams and therefore their players. And there is a sense of pride and attachment when people can watch the games on Monday night, and when the players are reading off their schools, be like, James, he always played at Florida State. That guy was always a Buckeye. He was always a USC Trojan. Now that's going away, of course. But before NIL, I'll just make my final point in all this. Before NIL, just the transfer portal was humming there for about a year and a half, where, it existed before that, but it really started humming the year and a half before NIL. And the thought was, well, these college athletes can do whatever they want. They can wake up one day and be like, I didn't like the food down at the cafeteria. I'm transferring. My girlfriend broke up with me. I don't want to see her anymore. I'm transferring. Like, on a whim, they could transfer. Like, we need to rein this in, like NFL free agency. Give it a deadline. Give it this. Give it that. Okay, it does have certain deadlines, but now the thought is that the transfer portal is bad, not because of that so much, but the player's going to go wherever they're going to get paid the most money. And if we could just adhere to, back to your original point, the rules, and the rule is a one-time transfer rule. Unless there are mitigating circumstances, a family member's gravely ill, a player needs to move across the country, that sort of thing. And I am all for that if we could just adhere to the one-time transfer rule. But we're seeing guys like Chase Bryce, quarterback at Clemson 1 year, Duke the next, App State the next. Like, people don't want to see that.
So again, and I 100%, like, I hate it, but I don't hate the transfer portal. I hate, because there's certain things that just really rub me the wrong way. Like, I'll even use I have the utmost respect for Randy Shannon, right? it's hard for me to see Randy Shannon as a coach at Florida State, man. Like it's very difficult for me to see that. And the reason why is because Randy Shannon came on my high school was on Florida State's campus. Randy Shannon came on my high school's campus and decked out in orange and green. He is the epitome of the University of Miami. He's the reason why I actually wanted to go to the University of Miami. But to see him wear Gator gear and then come to Florida State, and I'm just like, ew, how can you do that? Like, I can't even go to Gainesville. Like, anybody knows me, like, my sons can go to any school they want. They can go to Miami, actually. I'll be a little hurt, but, that's their decision. They can't go to Florida. They go to Florida, I will see him play 2 games when they come to Tallahassee. Live, that'll be on, and I'm rooting against them. And then I will shake his hand upon graduation and then tell him, talk to me again when you have my grandson, James Anthony Coleman IV. Like, other than that, you're written out of the will. You're out. You don't get any inheritance. And I will shake his hand at graduation because I say you went through 4 years as a man without any help from your family. And if his mother gives him a blood nickel, and she's out of the will too. No death benefit, no nothing. If my own mama does it, like ain't nobody. I'm the patriarch in my family. Ain't nobody helping him if he goes to the University of Florida. That's how much I mean it. But I've seen kids do that. But what I will say is this: again, if you don't like it, what you don't like is the way it's being reported. Because in 2002, my recruiting class was we had Leon Washington, Lorenzo Booker, Thomas Clayton, 2 5-stars and a 4-star. Torrance Washington was a fullback, me. So we had five running backs that came in that class. And not many FSU fans know who Thomas Clayton is. Because Thomas Clayton, and I didn't even know you could do this, he said he's transferring. And he went on all 5 official visits again. He ended up going to Kansas State. I believe he was I want to say 4th-round draft pick to San Francisco 49ers. Something like that. Don't quote me on that. I know he got drafted into the league, which is ironic. Damn near our whole backfield got a chance to get some coffee, at least in the NFL. But when I saw that, nobody cried or complained about it. There were guys who were here on your team in the fall, and then they were somewhere else. I had another teammate, Lamar Lewis, who's a great running back. It just didn't work out. You can't go to the league if you don't play. The difference is most people didn't do a lateral transfer. They went down to FCS, and you didn't care. But like now you see guys, and this is the reason why you see it. So you're not mad at the transfer portal. You're mad at the NCAA not enforcing the rules. You're supposed to have a year where you have to sit out if you go Power 5 to Power 5. You're supposed to have even stricter regulations if you transfer in conference. Schools used to be able to block other schools. You can go anywhere you want to, but if you go to these schools, you're going to have to sit out 2 years, or you're going to have to walk on, or you're going to have to do these things like that. So that's what you're mad about. And now what you're even more mad about, and this isn't what people don't realize is not all these kids are hitting the transfer portal because they're upset about playing time. Coaches have end of the year evaluations. And that's why when you have end of the year and then you have end of spring. So that's the reason why you see most people hit the portal in January, or most hit them in like the last couple of weeks of April, right after spring ball. I got news for you, fans. If that's when that kid hit the portal, guess what happened? More than likely, the coach said, we're trying to move into a different direction. That's the coach's right. It's their team. But it's also, you can't get mad at the kid for doing this. So again, I'm just outlining the real stuff that goes on with this. Now, Quayshawn Fuller's at Maryland. How can I be mad at Quayshawn Fuller when allegedly he was asked, like he was said, you're not getting any better here, so you need to go do what's best for you. And we got to do what's best for us. We need your scholarship. So he went and did better. Now, when the NCAA said, because of COVID, we're going to relax, we're going to give everybody another COVID year, and we're going to not enforce the APR. You allowed free agency. The adults allowed free agency, not the kids. You added another year, which affected high school recruiting, because now why would I go get another prep kid when I can have this redshirt freshman technically has 2 red shirts? So he's more valuable to me than some prep kid. So you allowed that, and now schools can get rid of them. They can flip their whole roster. You made again, it's not the kids. Bobby Bowden had this saying. It's not the kids that have changed. It's the adults. The kids are doing what they've always wanted to do, is try to see what they can get away with. It's the adults that have changed. So, mind you, those are all the things, the facts of what have happened. Now, let's look at since I went in college in 2002 to now. Bobby Bowden made $2.5 million. He was the highest paid coach in college football in 2002. You have coordinators that make $2.5 million. Bobby Bowden had been at Florida State for the entirety of my life. My position coach was at Florida State, was a position from 78 when Bobby got there. Mickey Andrews was there. Coaches used to stay 10, 15 years where they were at. You had a consistency. You knew what you were getting. But now you have coaches that change schools like draws. I'm not calling anybody out because, again, it's capitalism. It's your right. Tim Brewster has went from Florida State, Texas A&M, North Carolina, University of Florida, and then is allegedly going back as an analyst to Florida State. Since 2005, since 2015. Like, how can that guy fix his lips to tell a kid about loyalty when you're going and doing what's best for your family? And I think that's the problem. Is it's cool when you look at the coaches doing what's best for their families and not with the kids, because the whole idea of going to a Power 5 school is to get to the NFL. If it was about your academics and education, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and the service academies would have the best football teams. But it's about getting to the NFL. And in coaching, it's about becoming a head coach. And you can't become a head coach unless you go from a position coach to coordinator to head coach. And the only way to do that is to jump around. So you got kids, as the phrase says, attitude reflects leadership. So if you're upset what the kids are doing, look at who they're following. Hell, Nick Saban, who I now like, and his stability is also dope. Nick Saban told LSU that he wasn't leaving. Got mad when people implied that he was leave. Then told Miami Dolphins, I'm not leaving. Then got mad at the Dolphins media for insinuating that he was leaving when that man took a private jet in the middle of the night to go to Bama. Jimbo Fisher, for 4 straight years, threatened to leave Florida State until Florida State said, I'm tired of it. You got to bounce. You got to go do what you got to do. And I'm not knocking any of them for doing what's best for their family. But what I find it hard and hypocritical of people is to say it's wrong for the child to do what's best, what he feels is best for his family. But the people who are influencing the child can consistently do what's best for their family. Again, I have no problems on putting caps on the transfer portal and any of those things if you put caps on the coaches. And there's simple ways to do that too, to make it fair. If you leave Florida State, they already have rules. Again, it's already rules that are kind of in place. Like if Florida State hires me in an off-field position, I cannot recruit or or they can't bring in any kid for 2 years that I have a relationship with. Cool. Double down on that. If Kenny, I love Kenny Dillingham, went to Oregon. Kenny Dillingham goes to Oregon, no problem. Kenny, congratulations, make as much money. Those kids who you were recruiting at Florida State, you cannot have contact with them. You got to go find a whole bunch of other kids. I bet you'll stop seeing people hop as much when they can do those things. But again, even then, even coaches who get fired, they have guarantees in their contracts. They get paid no matter what. The kids don't have any, like if they want to take away your scholarship, now some schools have honored it, but there's nothing in writing that says the school has to honor your those are 4 1-year financial aid agreements. They can decide that they don't want to have you on scholarship anymore and you're no longer on scholarship. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. So again, I want people to understand that it's not as simple as a kid chooses your school and no longer wants to be a part of it. Sometimes there are life or death decisions that are difficult to manage as a young man. But there's also, you want to play and you want to go provide for your family, because we see it every year during the draft. They love talking about the stories about where we come from. A lot of us come from inner city. A lot of us are single parents, or we have a father or somebody or we have 2 parents that work their asses off. They just can't provide. So you're doing this to try to change the situations and the circumstances that you came in. So how can I get mad at how you do it? Whether it's your education, whether it's you going to the NFL, or whether it's you mastering marketing and being able to provide for your family. I think those are things. Now, I think if you don't want to see guys use the transfer portal as leverage, remove some of the enticement of it, and you won't have to worry about that. I don't necessarily think you should be able to transfer and immediately play. I don't necessarily agree with the one-time transfer rule. I think you should do more weighing of where you want to go originally, unless your coach gets fired. Now, if your coach gets fired or your coach leaves, then I believe you should have a one-time transfer rule because you're going to somebody that you didn't like. You didn't pick the school. Like, and don't miss me with the school part. I love Florida State because that's where I went. If I would have ended up going to Miami, I would have loved Miami. I went to Florida State for Bobby Bowden. I didn't know anything about. Now I love my Dr. Maxine Jones, my favorite teacher there. I took every class that she offered. I had no idea who Dr. Maxine Jones was before I went to Florida State. Loved her once I got there, but I went there for Bobby Bowden. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. If Bobby wasn't there, I would have went somewhere else. But if he would have left, I might have took my chances. Because what happens when as a fullback? What happens when I chose Florida State and he's an I formation guy, but then they bring in, which they actually did my senior year, which again, things that people don't know. I really was out my junior year, and I should have left probably. But we transferred from that. We brought in Mark McHale from Marshall, and they tried to go and run a spread type system, which kind of took me out of. I went from playing, averaging 55 to 60 snaps a game to some games I got to maybe 25 plays. Like it limited the amount of impact that I can have on the field. I should have been able to, if I would have known all of that, I would have maybe taken my chances of seeing what was going on somewhere else. But I think again, everybody gets to participate in the business aspect of it, except for the people who are being leveraged. And I don't know why the hate is for them when you have more in common with the student athlete than you have with the coaches or the administration.
So I don't want to keep you too much longer. And you said a ton of stuff that I could go down, but I'm only going to go down one final point. And this doesn't even need to be a discussion, but it sounds like if only, and I know you're just throwing out a number, but it's fairly accurate, 2% of college players go to the NFL and make a dime. But if, take Florida State. Florida State's a great historic program, but right this second, it's an average program at best.
At best.
If all of those players are signing with Florida State thinking they're going to the NFL, then we need to educate these athletes on what the reality is, because they're not going to the NFL. And so they need to make better decisions or different decisions.
Yes and no. So you're right. You're not wrong. But you can't have doubt, right? It's hard to I can't, if I go there not thinking I'm good enough to play in the NFL, I won't. I'll be right.
Sure.
Like I always tell people, like if you believe you can't do something, you're going to be 100% accurate. If you believe you can do anything, you have a 50-50 chance of making it. So, but what needs to happen is, and this is where the great conversations and what we're doing with Mikanopi is not just about NIL deals. It's about development and about matching student athletes with successful alumni from the university, right? So I need to know that there's Myron Rolls that went to Florida State, or Garrett Johnson, who were tremendous All-American caliber athletes, but also Rhodes Scholars. I need to know about David Castillo's, who were pre-med while they were playing, while they were competing at a high level. I need to know about Brandy Stewart's, who was an All-American softball player, who is now an associate athletic director at Texas Tech and has been through a lot of different places, rising through the ranks. I actually wish she was our athletic director, even though I love Mike Alford, but Brandy's dope. They need to know about these people. They need to know about, obviously, the Spanx lady that was a Florida State grad. Like, what if you don't make it? But I was able to get you an internship with the Spanx lady. So now when you've graduated, now your degree is worth something. It does have value because alumni take care of alumni. See, if universities were doing that, you wouldn't be in this problem. You wouldn't be in this position. Like I had a kid. There's a kid who went to Notre Dame, and he was telling me about how what was sold to him when he went to Notre Dame wasn't just the NFL. It was the fact that Notre Dame graduates take care of Notre Dame graduates and the percentage of Notre Dame graduates that hire Notre Dame graduates. So he was confident that in 3 to 4 years, whether he made it to the NFL or not, he was going to have a job and more than likely a 6-figure job. Same thing with Georgia Tech. One of the things that Georgia Tech does a really good job of promoting is that I think 1 in 4 graduates are millionaires. Penn State, there was a kid who in a few cycles ago, I asked his dad why, because he was a Florida kid, why didn't he go to Florida State? And he had a daughter that went to Florida State. And he said, well, I went to Penn State on the visit. All they talked about was Penn State and how Penn State took care of their own. And when he looked at athletics, the different things, how many former Penn State graduates were working there? A kid on the Florida State's team, his dad, Rob Deloach, Kalen Deloach, his dad, Rob Deloach, talked to me about his recruiting process and how Michigan talked about Michigan men and how they actively sought alumni to come and mentor and talk. The things that we've had success at Florida State have been on accident and not deliberate. And I think if universities really wanted to curve this, be deliberate with your NIL structures. Go out and show these guys how, again, it's not about the 3 to 5 or even 2, if you want to say 6 figures right now. How does that degree translate into me making money for the rest of my life? How does these 4 years that I'm about to give you of my body translate into the next 40 years? There's so much that the NCAA and the universities could have done to curtail this system. I went out there, again, like I joked about my touchdown. So I have neck issues. I know where my neck issues stem from. I scored a touchdown against North Carolina State. I tried to jump over the pile. They hit Tank, I think Tank Johnson was his name, caught my feet. I went head first into the ground. They said I had a minor concussion, which turned out to be bad. And I've had neck issues ever since then. I have to have good insurance. I have to have all these different things. I shouldn't need any insurance. If I can get to Tallahassee, Florida, I should be able to go see a doctor for what I did for Florida State for them 4 years. There should be a trust. I should be able to go get a job if I'm qualified with the degree that I have from some alumni. There should be things that are in place that you should know you have benefits as a former alumni. I shouldn't have teammates that didn't make it to the NFL that struggle with identity and struggle with making ends meet because of what they did for the university and how much they did. I'm not blaming the university. Blame lies in them too. But for what you've done in 3 to 5 years, in the fame and the things that the notoriety, you should be able to come back to that campus and be treated as the king or queen that you are. And the problem is that with most things, as a history major, this is the beautiful thing, and I learned this with my degree. So the problem with people is that you guys do arm some inner city guys who talk a lot of trash with a lot of knowledge. And my degree was in African American studies, both in Africa and on the United States. So that's what my emphasis was in history. And the one thing that's consistent across the board with America and capitalism is that the only time good change comes is when it affects the bottom line. Or war. But war happens when it affects the bottom line. If you did the right thing because it was the right thing to do, you would never be in this situation. And I think that's where we're at right now, is people aren't recognizing that there were really simple things that could have been done that could have really prevented us from getting to this situation. But the fact that nobody who has been in positions of power relinquished power willingly, it had to be forced. It was forcibly. And, now that it's done, it's not the end of the world. It's just new. And nobody really knows how to respond to the newness of it. But I really do think in all of this, if you're a fan and you are truly worried about how these guys are going to be positioned and how they're going to be taken advantage of, then put yourself in a situation where you can help curtail these young with mentorship, because it's here and it's going to change. And if you have that kind of pride for your university and you really love them, then go out here and make sure that these guys are having the best years of their life, set them up for the rest of their life. And I can speak from it because, as I joke, nobody has eaten more off of one touchdown than me. So, and I'm a walking NIL deal, and I know what it can be. I know, I make a living talking about sports only because at one point, 16, 17 years ago, I was considered really, really good at it.
James Coleman, 36 Degrees, Sports Den Live, or the podcast, but in particular, Miki, I know I was going to mess it up because I haven't heard it now for 45 minutes. Give us the name of your NIL partnership.
Micanopy 1851. And so how we even got to that, Miko is Seminole for chief. And at Florida State, our top boosters are called Mikos. Those are the top dogs. And Micanopy is Seminole for young leader. So all it is we're basically trying to show these young leaders how to become future chiefs. And again, we want them to be the ones that everybody goes with. And for people who believe that, I don't make this is a passion project for me. I don't make a penny from it. Like, not a dime. Like, literally the deals that we're orchestrating and putting out, we don't get a percentage of it. It's me, a guy Mike Underwood, and we've got lawyers, and everybody's Seminole alumni that's involved in this. So who better to show Seminoles how to be Seminoles than Seminoles? And it's ironic. A lot of schools have reached out to try to get more information on how we're patterning ours so that they can do that with themselves. And that's no knock to Rising Spear, which I think Rising Spear, I've actually helped guide a lot of athletes at Florida State to Rising Spear, which is our main NIL collective. Their job is to cover the 500. I ain't got the energy or the bandwidth to go for 500 student athletes. We're looking for 10 to 15 student athletes that want to learn how to become brands and be able to enhance what the image of Florida State student athlete is. And that's why I said our first client, and we got a couple other that we got some deals in the works for, but our first one is Michaela Edenfield, who is a phenomenal softball player. She's top 10 in the freshman of the year finalist, probably will win. We're going to hope she wins. And we're going to market the hell out of it because people need to know about her, what she's gone through. Like, she's got an anti-bullying campaign that we're going to try to put behind her, as well as a lot of other things. And she's gorgeous. I'm not even going to lie to that. So, like, she's a gorgeous, smart, elite athlete. And I think, again, everybody focuses on the males, but they're not. My bad. I hate to harp on this. So there have literally been for the last decade sites, IG posts, TikToks, Facebook groups called like basketball babes or hot women and college athletes. I hate to say perverted, but whatever. But old men are taking pictures of these female athletes, posting them up, getting hundreds and thousands of views and likes. And you know who's getting paid from that? Them. Not the girls who got blessed with the body, who work their asses off in the weight room to look like what they do and have become elite. They don't get paid for that. Well, now they can get paid. It's capitalism. Everybody else gets to benefit from them, even in the most perverse ways, in those ways. And except for, the female student athlete. And what I've told people is really the ones whose lives can be changed is through them. And I'm finding more, it's ironic the things that you see people fight for, feminism, wait till you talk to a woman that's in marketing about sponsoring an elite female athlete. And then you'll learn a lot about that feminism stuff that they trying to market the dudes too. So but again, somebody got to be an advocate for these student athletes. And that's kind of what we're doing. With Micanopy 1851, and there's some of the things that I'm just doing. One, I'm actually would love to get back and talk to you about this. FAMU had an athlete. So again, using myself as an example, FAMU has the defensive player of the year in FCS, a young man by the name of Isaiah Land. Phenomenal athlete, phenomenal young man, and he was going to enter the transfer portal, and rightfully so, because he also FAMU had a great player, Marquise Bell, who didn't get drafted, who everybody had a 3rd to 5th round grade on, but he didn't get drafted. So he was like, man, am I hurting myself by playing at this HBCU? And I talked to him, I gave him some advice, and I talked to him and I said, hey man, what you looking for? Okay, let me represent you. And we'll get that. We'll get it from FAMU. We'll get it from people who love HBCU athletics at FAMU, and it's going to be a great story. We got him a crib in the metaverse through College Fan Coin. We'll have an NFT for him. We'll pay him through our Discord. With fifth quarter, he'll have a fifth quarter deal, and then we've got a couple other things that are coming in. So it's a lot of unique stories that you can actually come and you can galvanize a fan base, and you can change your school's fortunes through this. You can keep your best athletes by proving that you really like your best athletes. And these kids, again, a lot of these kids don't want nothing more than to be able to kind of live. Like you going out there, you working your ass off of football, and sometimes you can't take a girl on a date. You just want to go. Like movies are expensive, man. Like especially with my kid, I tell my kids, mom and the mom out, like it's cheaper for me to rent a movie theater out at this point than to just go buy normal tickets. And God forbid you want to take the girl to Checkers and get a burger and a shake. Like you're gonna be like it's expensive. But again, that's what these guys want to be able to do is just live and be able to play. And I think NIL is a dope opportunity. And if anybody has fears, I'll talk to them. If anybody wants to know how you can get involved, doesn't have to be Florida State, doesn't have to be FAMU, even with your school, your alma mater. You want to know how to get involved? I can show you how to get involved. It's really not as bad as what people think. And it's not, the money ain't as good as people think. It's just new. And the thing about people fear what they don't understand and hate what they can't conquer. And I think you just got to let it play out. And, if it really is the end of the NCAA, who cares? They brought it on themselves. But I don't think it's the end of it because money's been in the NCAA since before I was allowed. Hey, what is it? Eric Dickerson? Didn't Eric Dickerson say he got paid less to go to the NFL than he did at SMU?
He made that comment. Yeah.
I mean, this was in the 80s, guys. So maybe they're bringing the 80s back. I don't know. Like that'd be fun.
There's a ton of worth in what you said about fear and hate in this country involving a lot of other things, but we won't go down that road. But absolutely. Big game, James Coleman. Great conversation. I always learn a ton. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Thank you. Anytime. Well, anytime I can get my sound to work.
Absolutely. That helps. Got to hear from you. All right, James.